Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of Everything Kratom, the podcast about anything and everything Kratom. Great to have you with us on this Tuesday morning. Hoping all is well with you. I'm doing pretty well myself and had some green mang da this morning. Had 3.5 grams, I would say, of green mang da. So that's kind of getting up there for the size dose of Kratom for me, but certainly still considered low by most. But, you know, it works wonders for me, and I don't really need more than that. So I am happy, and hope you are too. Okay, today I wanted to look at an article. It's a pretty brief one, and it is about the FDA wanting to have new regulations for Kratom and CBD, and then specifically broadening the FDA's authority. And this article, I don't know, there's something about it that really got me that I wanted to share with others, because the way that it talks about this stuff, I feel like it should be a bigger deal than it is. So yeah, I'll explain what I mean in a sec, but let's get into it. So this article is on the Pain News Network website. I also found this through Apple News, which was surprising. So it's in at least a couple different places there. I'll link it to the Pain News Network in the description of this podcast. So it's talking about, well, you guessed it, CBD and Kratom, but from the perspective of the head of the FDA. And so this is the FDA Commissioner, Robert Califf, and he testified last month in May about basically the inability in his mind of the FDA to be able to properly oversee Kratom and CBD. And the way that he puts it is that CBD and Kratom kind of fall into this weird blurry area between, you know, the legal world, the completely illegal world, and, you know, the sorts of supplements that you might find every day at CVS. So he's kind of talking about how the FDA doesn't really have the authority that he thinks they need to be able to properly regulate both CBD and Kratom. Now, this article first, for the first half of it, talks more about CBD. And I think that it's worth a read, even though this is a Kratom podcast. I still think that the CBD part was important, because I think that it's interesting to see CBD was just basically made legal, you know, this past Farm Bill in 2018, and that's when they legalized hemp. And so, you know, hemp is now legal, CBD therefore is now legal. That's why it popped up in stores right afterwards. And it's kind of like a cool roadmap for like what might happen if Kratom is made officially legal. Like if it's given a status, right? Like hemp being given that status. Now, it's not exactly the same sort of scenario, but it's kind of similar. It's this weird outlier that nobody really knows exactly how to think about it. And then finally, it's just, you know, someone just lays it out. It's like, okay, fine, this is legal officially. And the market develops. Well, Kratom is kind of in between that, of course. You know, it's like legal and it's also not in some states. And essentially, this guy, Robert Califf, who heads the FDA, is talking about how Kratom is fairly dangerous, he thinks. It's not okay for any medical condition. He doesn't really think that the FDA has enough oversight ability, and he wants to broaden the FDA's powers, the FDA's authority to look into this further to officially regulate Kratom in some way. Now, the reason why I think that this is really weird is because you want to expand your power to regulate one drug. That is really strange to me. And I don't know why this doesn't seem to stick out to a lot of people, but it's like, why would you, as a government agency, want to spread your wings and fly and like increase your power to new heights because of Kratom? Like specifically because of Kratom. I don't know. It just kind of makes me think there might be a threat there, you know, like they kind of feel like there's a threat in allowing Kratom to continue being accessible. And I think there are some obvious reasons why that might be. But that's just kind of like my initial takeaway. It's kind of hard for me to push that thought out of my mind. So, of course, that's one thought I'm having. Then there's also a really great mention of a quote from Representative Mark Pocan, who he's a Democratic congressman from Wisconsin. He has historically been very pro-Kratom and has, helped to draft legislation to make KCPAs, or Kratom Consumer Protection Acts. And he's quoted here saying that the FDA's position on Kratom is extremely antiquated. And I think that is the perfect way of phrasing it. I've talked a lot about, on this show about how the FDA is citing these articles that are really old, or these studies that are really old, or this data that isn't backed up, or, these polls or these self-reported incidents of Kratom toxicity that later end up being like, well, they had 8 other things in their system. These are all like the primary sources for the FDA. I've never really put the words to it, and I think that he did. Extremely antiquated. Perfect. So I'm really glad that they got that in there, and I think that it is important, just to have somebody with similar authority, someone who's an elected representative, though, and someone who is serving as a lawmaker, to be saying that and saying, look, the FDA needs to get their sources up to date before they start talking about broadening their authority to regulate it. Also, it just makes me think, why wouldn't the FDA want to do this with things that it knows are dangerous? Like, for instance, cigarettes. Cigarettes kill people. Like, we know this. And of course, we've gone through a huge transformation in this country over the past 100 years, from cigarettes being given to like 5-year-olds to, having it say that it's dangerous on the packages. But, and no advertisements. But it's still like everywhere. Like, people are smoking cigarettes all the time in the streets and everywhere in between. Why wouldn't the FDA want to expand their powers to further regulate cigarettes and maybe even make them illegal? Like, we know it kills people. Like, I don't know. That was my first thought. I'm like, there are so many other things you could expand your authority on if you think they're dangerous, if that's the reason. So that's why I don't think that's the reason why they want to do that. But anyway, moving on. My favorite part of this is that while he was testifying, the head of the FDA was asked more about Kratom, and he said, "I hope to come back to you on Kratom in a couple months," Califf replied. "There are millions of people using Kratom. We do have real adverse events, real negative things that have happened to people, and it does interact with multiple neurotransmitters." And I just love that, because like, he's saying all these things after the fact that he's saying, I don't have anything with me at the moment to talk to you more about why I want to, further regulate Kratom. He's just saying like, okay, I'll get back to you on that, but it's really dangerous and I don't like it. It's just so obvious. It's just so obvious that they really don't understand what they're dealing with. Again, I always say this. If Kratom is dangerous, if it kills people, and if I find that out or see evidence of it, I will stop talking about it in a positive way, and I'll start telling people to stop taking it. I have no agenda. But even the head of the FDA couldn't come to a prepared testimony to Congress. Like he could not come before the House Appropriations Subcommittee and testify with weeks in advance to prepare and have the data to be able to back up what he's saying about Kratom. That's got to say something, right? Like, you don't just show up and testify in Congress. So if you're going to testify on 2 things, CBD and Kratom, and you only have information on CBD, which I haven't vetted, but I don't know what he's saying about that specifically, something's going on there. And I think that it's just kind of reinforcing this viewpoint that the FDA is just after Kratom for, financial gain. So I don't like to believe that, but every day there's something new that pushes me in that direction. So I don't know. Anyway, what do you think? Let me know. Send me an email, anythingeverythingkratom@gmail.com. I would love to hear your theories. Okay, everybody, have a great rest of your day. We will be back tomorrow. Take it easy. Bye-bye.